If you've been following along, you've seen that I've gone through this planning and ideation process over several months. It's not something that happens overnight. You have to allow yourself freedom to brainstorm, sketch, and gather inspiration. In the case of designing a camera studio for the pennies, I started by thinking about the mechanisms for moving the coins around. Initially, I came up with the idea of a linear motion for the piece I was calling the coin slider. But guess what? That has all changed. More recently, I've been considering turning the coin slider into a design that's slightly more round. And so the initial idea of the coin slider has evolved from linear to rotational. And that's the beauty of the ideation process. It allows you to explore different possibilities and discover what works best for your finished design. After you've designed and thought up the ideas for all the individual pieces of your robot, it's time to put them all together. Similar to the shelf supports, I'm using FreeCAD, which has both 2D drawing and 3D modeling tools. It's super powerful and allows me to sketch out all of my ideas digitally. And perhaps best of all, it is absolutely free to install and use. I'll leave a link below in the description with the download page. Hey everyone, this is Future Dan. I just wanted to let you all know that I've also been doing a lot of work on the coinbot.com website, and I also hope you'll leave some feedback about the website down below in the comments. Here in FreeCAD, I'm using the 2D drawing tools to create an overhead view of the finished robot, incorporating the rotational coin slider and the other key components. It feels a little bit like playing with a bunch of puzzle pieces and figuring out how they'll fit together to form the bigger picture. What's fascinating is that with access to a 3D printer, I know I can create precise shapes and dimensions. In my first iteration of the Coin Studio, I was using a pill bottle with almost the right dimensions, but not quite. But now I can make the final design have the perfect dimensions. For example, I know that I want the finished studio to have a string of 20 addressable LEDs. And when I measured the length of a string of 20 LEDs, I get a distance of 158 millimeters. But the diameter of a circle is needed to create a circle in FreeCAD, not the circumference. However, by rearranging the equation c equals pi d, we can determine the diameter. In this case, we know the circumference is 158 millimeters, so we simply divide that by pi and get a diameter of approximately 50.29 millimeters. That dimension will allow me to create a very precise circle in FreeCAD with a circumference of exactly 158 millimeters. And in turn, I can build the rest of the coin lighting studio around that. I also know that a penny has a diameter of about 19 millimeters, which is 3/4 of an inch. So I can add a few circles to represent where the pennies will go. Now that those dimensions are set, I can just play around, dragging the other circles around to find the best overhead layout. I know I'll also be adding gears and other mechanisms to facilitate rotation, doing my best to reduce the overall part count, and thus keeping the cost of the finished robot to a minimum. Everyone has their own preferred process, and for me it's about spending time chewing on ideas before committing them to paper or digital ink. I use whatever tools are available to facilitate the design process, but programs like FreeCAD are fantastic for going through the design process, generating ideas, and bringing them to life. So planning and ideation are the first step in rapid prototyping. It's all about exploring, refining, and unleashing your creativity. But what do you think is the next step in the robot design process? Feel free to drop your guesses in the comments below, and let's see if you're right.
A lot of boring math later.
Now it's time to start designing individual parts for our coin photographing robot. We're going to get these 2D designs pulled into a third dimension and ready for 3D printing. In this segment, we create the rotational coin slider by first generating a gear in FreeCAD. We'll use this later as our drive mechanism. Now we take that 2D drawing of the coin slider that we created earlier, attach it to the top surface of the gear, and extend the coin slider into the 3D world by extruding that shape along the z-axis. We then align it with the coin stack above and attach it to the upper penny camera. At this point, it's all about lining up the pieces and pulling them along one of the axes to bring them into 3D relief. Once you finish connecting these dots, you end up with a single cohesive design. Now the top camera, coin stack, and coin slider are all connected, and we can pull each of them vertically to create a 3D part. It's like watching our creation take shape right before our very eyes. But we're not done yet. At the bottom of the coin robot, we'll have a section that houses the bottom coin studio. This is the same dimensions as we discussed for the upper coin studio, but we'll connect the bottom camera and the coin sorter and ensure that everything fits together seamlessly. To make the coin sorter even more compact and functional, I have yet another ingenious idea, implementing a clutch mechanism. This will allow the coin slider to only rotate counterclockwise while allowing the coin sorter to only rotate clockwise, and this will all be accomplished with a single stepper motor. This effort to reduce the part count should make the finished robot easier to assemble and cheaper to build. Taking the time to think through these design considerations can make a world of difference. It's all about refining, optimizing, and solving potential issues early on. That's the beauty of the design process. We can fine-tune our ideas and create something we can truly be proud of. At this stage, we have an almost finished product. The layout represents the rough blueprint of our final design. We still have to create some interconnecting pieces and ensure that everything snaps together like a well-oiled machine. But I can't wait for all that. It's time to see how our design translates into the real world. So in the next segment, we'll be firing up the 3D printer and printing what we have so far. So my friends, stay tuned for the next part of our rapid prototyping adventure, where we'll refine our design, conquer the challenges of 3D printing, and inch closer to capturing stunning photos of pennies. For now, that's my 2 cents. Thanks for joining me today, and don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell to never miss another adventure on this channel. Stay awesome, and I'll see you in the next video. Take care, everyone.